It's the After Show with TelecomTV's Guy Daniels and Ray LeMaitre.
Hello and welcome to the After Show on TelecomTV. I'm Guy Daniels, Director of Content, and we're broadcasting live and waiting to hear from you at the end of day 2 of our Spotlight on 5G Week. It's been another busy day. We've just finished the O-RAN Alliance Industry Summit, so allow us to help you unwind with our little soiree. We've got a great lineup of guests joining us again today who are going to answer your questions. And if you haven't got in touch yet and want to do so, then please do now. Don't leave it too late. There's a form on the website below this video. And as always, the After Show is co-hosted by Ray LeMaitre, Editorial Director at TelecomTV. Hello, Ray. And as I mentioned, it's been a busy and very, very long day so far, with an early start to launch our new news programme, The Slice, the second edition of which went out this morning. MWC is happening this week, mainly virtually. What's been your main highlights from the day?
Well, Guy, I mean, how much time do we have? I mean, just here on Telecom TV, we've had 2 CTO interviews, one with Rakuten Mobile's Tarek Amin and one with Brendan O'Reilly from neutral host BAI, where he talked about the major 5G subway train network that BAI is building in the London Underground network. And we had a great RAN roundtable panel and, of course, lots of hot industry news in today's episode of The Slice, some of which, of course, came from the MWC show floor. We just need the days to be longer, that's all.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. As you say, we started the day with our Strategy Outlook programme, which today focused on 5G RAN, and I'm sure we'll be receiving a number of questions around this topic. But on with the show, and joining us live on the programme today are Arnaud Vampiris, who is Senior Vice President, Radio Networks and 5G Champion at Orange, Jose Antonio Aranda, Innovation and Product Strategy Director with Cellnex, Phil Mottram, President, Intelligent Edge for Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, Caroline Chan, VP and GM 5G Infrastructure Division Network Platform Group at Intel, and Tom Walker, Manager Consulting Systems, Engineering, Telco and 5G with Fortinet. Hello everyone, really good to see you all again. Now, we've got questions from our viewers to get through, as well as some of our own today, plus we've got a few surprises along the way. But first, it's MWC week, and some of us at least are not in Barcelona.
Yes, things are rather different this year, and we find ourselves reporting on the event remotely. Telecom TV has a long history supporting the event going back to 2002. But can you remember your first MWC? Well, let's ask our guests. So, Arnaud, let's start with you. Can you remember when was your first Mobile World Congress? And do you have any particular memories from that first visit?
Oh, what's a question? Yes, it's quite a long time ago as a young engineer. I think it was in Cannes, perhaps the first edition in Cannes on the French Riviera. It should be in 1996, I assume, because we had there quite a unique experience. In 1996, it was the first time in Cannes, but we had that during 9 years, I think, and then we moved to Barcelona now. In fact, I'm just live from Orange booth in Barcelona right now, and it's a bit the same size that what we had in Cannes 2 decades ago. So it's a way to reconnect this year. I'm sure we will see all of us next year.
Excellent. Well, yeah, coming full circle a bit, the circumstances, of course, rather different. And of course, I'm sure in 1996, if I remember rightly, everybody was just starting to get really excited about the upcoming launch in a few years of 3G. So a little bit different to where we are now. Jose, when was your first Mobile World Congress and what memories do you have?
Yes. There's not much, many people that knows that I was event director of the Mobile World Congress when we brought the Congress to Barcelona. So my first Mobile World Congress was the 2008 edition. That's when we brought the event from Cannes to Barcelona. And my memories are from a person that are on the other side of the fence. So the first edition was to make sure that registration were going smoothly, that we have enough capacity to cater for all the attendees and provide enough food and all of these things. So good old memories. And those first years I spent basically to understand whether Barcelona was the right city to stay as GSMA, and I think we did the right choice to keep the Congress in Barcelona. And as Arnaud mentioned as well, I'm also this week in Barcelona. It's true that it is a little bit less attended, but it is worth. In my case, and I have been speaking with a lot of people, it is the first time in more than 1 year that we have the chance to meet colleagues, to meet friends, and to meet customers. And I think that's something that little by little we need to start recovering.
Absolutely, and I think everybody will share that sentiment. And interesting, you started on the other side of the fence there. I'm sure that was quite a stressful time, but like you say, Barcelona has proven to be, I think, the optimum choice for that show. And of course, we'll all be looking forward to being back there again in early 2022. Thanks very much, Jose. Phil, what about yourself? Your first MWC and any particular memories?
Yeah, I think it was about 10 years ago, and it was in Barcelona. And the one memory I have was I remember walking through the exhibition hall with my boss. He was a really nice guy. He was quite short-sighted, and he bumped into someone else in the exhibition hall and was very apologetic about it. And then about 30 seconds after that, he realised that his wallet was missing. So actually, I think the guy had walked into him and had been a professional pickpocket and stolen his wallet. So that was my lasting memory from the first one.
Wow. Yes, that's. I think that over the years that's happened to a few people. I think definitely over the years we've seen security improve massively in Barcelona. But yeah, there's not the best of memories for some of their first visits there. Hopefully, of course, that's never happened to you, Phil, and won't happen to any of us here again when we return to the show. Caroline, what about your first visit to a Mobile World Congress?
It was 2010. It was, remember, the old Fira in Barcelona. I remember I was very ill dressed because I was wearing high heels. And if you remember, it was actually the slope. Unlike the new Fira, which everything's flat, I was walking and it just on the hills, it was just miserable. By the end of the day, I think I was started walking around barefoot when no one was looking. And I only put on the heels when people. And it was horrible. And I remember that night I went to, what is that? The large department store, Cortez Ingles. Immediately bought myself a flat heel. I just couldn't deal with the next day the high heels anymore. So lessons learned: don't wear high heels when you go to a trade show like Mobile World Congress.
Absolutely, I'll make sure to remember that, Caroline. Thank you very much for the tip. And if I remember rightly, will.i.am had a few problems on those cobbles as well in the shoes he was wearing when he visited as well. So Tom, any MWC memories for you?
Yeah, so I think probably I'm a bit of a latecomer to MWC in person. My first physical presence at MWC was in 2018. I've worked in the background at various companies that I've been at in the past with messaging and building technical demos and so on, but not actually been there in person. So 2018 was my first year there, and I think probably the lasting memory was just the sheer size and scale of it. I was aware that it was big and there was a lot of attendees, but only once you're there and you're able to take the time to move around between the different halls and meet a mix of customers, partners, and colleagues, you really get a scale of the size of the event. My lasting memory actually was in 2019. I happened to get an insect bite. And unfortunately, I had quite a bad reaction and I had to go to the emergency department in Barcelona. So my lasting memory of the 2019 one was actually how good the Spanish healthcare system was. as a visitor. But the event itself was very, very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it takes a year to get your head around just how long it takes to get from one place to another, from one meeting to the next. But great you had that positive experience of the health system there. They really are geared up for that large number of visitors. Okay, excellent. Great memories there of first visits to MWC. Thanks to everybody for that. And Guy, I think it's time to come to our first question of the day.
Yep, thank you, Ray. Thank you, everyone. That was highly enjoyable. First question of the day, and Arno, I think I'm going to ask you this, give you the opportunity to answer first here. And incidentally, I think your first 3GSM World Congress was my first one as well. I'm sure it was 95, 96, one of those years. It's so far away now and so long ago, I can't exactly remember when it was or what happened, but I know it was in Cannes and it was terrific. Right, first question. How far are CSPs away from a real plug-and-play Open RAN system from multiple OEMs in the same network?
Good question, Guy. In fact, when we talk about Open RAN, we are talking about openness, cloudification, and intelligence. And with openness, we have this split between radio unit, distributed unit, and central unit, where with a frontal interface and with key free blocks. And of course, if you want to have this plug and play, you have to have integration work and effort. That's why many operators have open ORAN integration center to help for the de-risking and for the test between many companies. Of course, as Orange, we are contributing on that, and we have one prepared for the next ORAN Plugfest, for example. Another way to have a plug-and-play approach and to have a better integration is to what we did with the other European operators. We just published some technical requirement for Europe where we operate, and to limit the number of profiles that you will need to investigate and to test. So you have in the ORAN specs quite a number of options, and we wanted really to reduce this number of options to make sure that all the players, and there are many of them arriving right now on Open RAN ecosystem, and that with some of them present in Mobile World Congress this year, to really have a better plug and play. It's a journey, it's not done, but through this ORAN Integration Center, through the efforts from each individual OEM vendor, and through this technical requirement, for example, for Europe, I think it's a quite major step to achieve at the end some plug-and-play approach.
Thank you, Arnaud. And as you say, test integration is becoming so important with Open RAN and furthering the Open RAN deployments. Any of our other guests want to comment on this question of how far away we are from a true plug-and-play Open RAN environment? If not, I'd say thank Arnaud for that. And Caroline.
Yeah, I just want to chime in. So my obviously as Intel, we've been participating in Open RAN for quite a while. Also, I haven't had the honor to sit on the TIP board. So we've seen a lot of these progresses. I fully agree with Arnold. There's a lot of profiles that ORAN Alliance put out. Some of the work, for example, the group of 5 operators that Orange is part of, they've been aligning. In fact, they just published a requirement spec recently, right, in conjunction through TIP. And the more we align on the requirements, that we're better off to getting to a more of a closer to a plug and play. And in addition, some of the work that we're doing, like Plugfest, Intel has hosted one, and ORAN has an interoperability lab, and TIP is also in the mix of working to get that kind of interoperability Plugfest together. I think the more we do that as industry, the more we achieving the plug and play. which is the ideal case. It significantly decreases the time to market, time to deployment, and costs for everybody in the supply chain. So I think we'll get there pretty soon. I think the work that all the O-RAN Alliance, TIP, and the Group of Five operators are doing is a great step forward.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Thanks, Caroline. And it is so early days. It's will be a very long journey for Open RAN. Ray, let's hand over to you and our next viewer question.
Okay, thank you, Guy. Here is our next question. What can be done in radio access network, the RAN, to make in-building coverage better for 5G? So one of the big challenges for 5G to get coverage in building. Phil, let's come to you first with this one.
Yeah, sure. So I think in-building coverage used to be a voice problem years ago, and obviously that saw the popular use of DAS systems, so distributed antenna systems. But nowadays, I think voice coverage is less of an issue. It's more a data coverage issue. And so I think what can be done to help improve matters there, within the HPE portfolio, we have a division called Aruba, which grew its kind of base products in the Wi-Fi space. And so there's a lot of work that operators can do with Wi-Fi providers to use Wi-Fi offload to move traffic off the kind of public 5G network and onto the Wi-Fi networks that most companies have. Linked to that as well, within the Aruba product set, we also have kind of CBRS, which is the systems band radio spectrum, which is being used more extensively across the US now to build private 5G networks. And that, again, is helping improve data coverage in particular for enterprise customers in buildings.
Okay, thanks, Phil. And Jose, let's come to you on this in-building coverage question.
Yes, going back to what it was mentioned about distributed antenna systems, we see that there's an interesting footprint already of solutions covering in buildings, in malls, in hospitals, but also in transport hotspots, as well as stadiums or pavilions. And we see that to improve the in-building coverage, there are different additional options. So an RF repeater could be a solution as well that could be implemented. But both passive DAS using the eNode B or active DAS are solutions that you can find already implemented in the market. It's true that more and more there are solutions like the digital DXS. There are solutions provided by different vendors that are coming to place. And I see that there's already demand from venue owners to have 5G implemented in their venue. But one of the interesting discussions that we are having, for instance, in the Small Cell Forum is, can we define a different split than in Open RAN than a split 7 or a split 2 that can facilitate the implementation of in-building coverage? And there's a very interesting discussion whether a split 6 it could be something that will boost the use of Open RAN in buildings. And we're working with different standardization bodies and also with different other associations to see whether we can explore this Open RAN Split 6 as an option for in-building coverage for 5G.
Okay, excellent. Great. Thanks for that insight, Jose. And Caroline, you wanted to come in on this as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in on what Phil mentioned about CBRS. So in the United States, a lot of the cable operators actually have started that discussion. There's some recent announcement. What we try to do is that, in fact, taking the 7.2 split, taking the Open RAN, but offer that at a smaller form factor, smaller power footprint. And it's actually, there are trials and POCs going on right now, taking a small cell in the Open RAN split 7.2 or split 2 going into a indoor in-building coverage. I think what we have seen so far is the power footprint does meet the requirements for indoor coverage, for especially either private networks or simply for a public network, but really serving the in-building, especially around enterprise. A lot of focusing has been around the enterprise side rather than home. I think home may be something that we still have to look at what's the right form factor for that. But enterprise factories, we're seeing a lot of that 7.2 Open RAN provide sufficient coverage at a cost and power footprint factor that's suitable.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Caroline. Okay, if we don't have any more comments on this particular topic, then Guy, I think I'll hand back over to you for the next part of the programme.
Yep, thank you, Ray. Well, time now for our new feature, TelecomTV Uncorked, which celebrates one of the pleasures of the networking hour and after-show parties at MWC, such as the super panels that Caroline knows so well from previous shows. Now, each day this week, we're selecting a wine from a different major region of Spain with the help of our expert, Pierre Mansour of the Wine Society. So, let's see what Pierre has for us today.
So my second selection is a wine called Paso de Villaray. That's the name of the producer. The key thing here is Albarino. That's the name of the grape variety. The region that Albarino is grown in is Galicia in northwestern Spain, and this is a really Atlantic influenced part of Spain. Its nickname is Green Spain because it's quite cool, it's quite damp, it rains quite a lot. And so it makes wines, only specific grape varieties will grow and ripen successfully in this part of Spain. And one of those is Albarino. Being slightly cooler, the wines tend to be lighter, fresher, they're not big and heavy. And they tend to work best with absolutely no oak. So they're made really, really simply. The reason that I picked this wine is because Albarino has really spearheaded a huge revolution in Spanish white winemaking. And it's really down to the advent of stainless steel in wine. And in Spain, a lot of Spain's traditional winemaking is based on using oak. Stainless steel is an inert container, and with specific styles of wine can help express that brightness of fruit. And Albarino is one of those. So 20, 30 years ago, there really wasn't good quality Albarino on the market. In the last 15 years, the progress in this area has been astonishing, so much so that countries around the world, countries in the Southern Hemisphere, in the US and so on, are starting to grow Albarino because this has become quite a fashionable grape, and it makes a really lovely white wine to drink on a summer's day. It's a lovely aperitif style white wine that has a sort of appley, peachy fruit character and mouth-watering and very refreshing.
Well, I completely agree with what Pierre has to say there. I mean, it is a beautiful wine. In fact, you know what? It was a Telefonica press event at MWC that first introduced me to this wine. Oh. It's absolutely fantastic. Nice nose to it. Look at that. And you know, today's actually my 20th wedding anniversary, and I'm spending it with back-to-back studio filming. So a quick toast to my wife, who is in the far corner of the studio producing today. Cheers.
Happy anniversary, Guy. Happy anniversary, Gitta.
Thank you.
And yes, I can confirm that it's got a great nose on it.
Peachy.
Absolutely. We'll be finishing that off later.
Well, look,
that is a great white.
Well, it is after 5 p.m. here in the UK, so it's officially wine time for us. And if you're not familiar with Albariño and you appreciate a glass or two of wine, then I do recommend you try it and get to know your local wine merchant. Wherever you live, whichever country, a good one is of enormous help and value. And if you don't drink, that's fine. Do whatever it takes to unwind and escape the world of telecoms, at least for a little while. Phil, are you a fan of the Albariño?
Certainly am.
Excellent. I hope so. And Caroline, I bet you've had a few Albariños whilst at MWC.
I actually have a bottle in the fridge right now. It's like 11 a.m. here. It just feels wrong to drink wine.
Never too early.
I thought about
Never
it.
too early.
I actually thought about it. Actually, I'd say it's 5 p.m. in UK. But Guy, you reminded me. Remember the super panel we always have at Mandarin Oriental on the first day? That's usually quite a party. Oh my gosh! Oh, I miss that.
Oh yes.
You can tell that I'm
already
already
Barcelona.
Like,
Well, here's to next year. Anyway, moving along. Our next question: is 5G virtual RAN more reliable than the systems already being used from the major vendors, such as the likes of Ericsson and Nokia, whoever, who they are, the traditional vendors? And is it any cheaper in the end? Do we have any thoughts on that one? Well, perhaps, Tom, perhaps I could come to you and maybe change the question around a bit and take it from a security angle and ask you the question with an eye on security there.
Yeah, sure. So I think probably one of the key aspects with virtual RAN is a shift change in the platform architecture and the components. And embracing that IT-based infrastructure and the cloud platform presents some quite different security challenges to the traditional, what I would call black box approach of baked-in vendor solutions. Now that cloud platform and software-driven approach adds huge amounts of flexibility. It certainly benefits with things like recovery from failure and recovery from a health perspective across service functions. But the complexities it adds in having multiple additional components of different layers, be it the cloud platform, the application services, the network connectivity, the software-driven network connectivity, that mean that I don't think you could say it's necessarily more reliable, but at the same time, I don't think you could say it's necessarily less reliable. I think the aspect is the challenges are different, and as long as the understanding, certainly from a security perspective, and when I count security, I mean availability, which is a key part of being reliable. As long as the security considerations are paramount from the outset, I think it has every opportunity to be as reliable as those traditional black box approaches.
Good to hear. Thank you very much for that, Tom. Phil, what about this aspect of price? Do you want to address the part of the question where we talk about, is it ultimately going to be a cheaper solution for CSPs?
Yeah, I would imagine it should be a cheaper solution. I feel more confident about that because I think you can combine different functions that right now you would see on separate pieces of infrastructure, such as a kind of front hall gateway, cell site router, encryption appliances, and also enterprise applications as well. So I guess historically they would have sat on different platforms. So now what you can do is you can combine those in this vRAN world and put them all on one platform. So ultimately, I think it will definitely be cheaper. On the reliability front, I think right now it's too early to tell, isn't it? Because there aren't any really big deployments out there. So it's a wait and see on the reliability side, but I definitely think it will be cheaper.
Thank you very much, Phil. Caroline, have you got any thoughts about this question you can add?
Yeah, I think that the question about cheaper, it's not just the CapEx, right? I think you've talked to Tarek, for example, early on. When he has been very publicly talking about the total cost of ownership. It's not just a CapEx. There's a lot of OpEx that savings that we should that O-RAN can bring to us, such as cloud-like management, automation. The more that we look at the telecom network, like the way that cloud has been managing, a lot of the automation that's built into the cloud. If we use the same principle to manage a 5G network, there's definitely, we are seeing some of the OpEx savings. In addition to what Phil talked about, the cost for CapEx, driving more software function consolidation onto the physical box. That's what O-RAN brings. In addition, look at the OpEx savings, the automation, what that can bring into the overall cost of ownership. I think there's definitely a huge potential for significant savings there.
Great, thank you very much, Caroline. Any other comments from any of our guests on that question? If not, then Ray, let's go back over to you for our next viewer question.
Okay, thank you, Guy. Well, here's our next question. When will there be a lot of 5G small cells deployed? And does it make sense for all operators to share small cells instead of building out their own? Jose, maybe we can come to you with this one.
Yes, thank you. I think that a massive deployment of 5G small cells will come when the mobile operators start having 26 gigahertz spectrum. So that will be the first step. And once they have that spectrum, also there has to be demand of services with high bandwidth. And we do see that may happen in city centers or hotspots. We have already implemented in Cellnex nearly 2,000 nodes. And we see that in cities like Milano, there is an interesting demand of having small cells across the city. Also, we see in London, there are 14 neighbors that and boroughs that are starting to deploy small cells. We calculate that for each of the macros, there might be up to 10 small cells on the optimistic way, and that implies tens of thousands of small cells in each of the countries. And concerning the second question, does it make sense to share? We do see that it is the only way, sharing is the only way to have a feasible model to implement small cells in each of the lampposts of a city. But we have been talking to both the mobile operators, but also the cities, and there is a high interest in each of the cities to have the implementation of small cells structured in a way that whenever the mobile operators are going to implement the small cells, they do not do in each of the lampposts, and each of the lampposts is used by one single mobile operator. Ideally, a sharing model is the models that we see in the city that are the most preferable one.
Yes, absolutely. And we're seeing a lot more infrastructure sharing agreements amongst the operators these days as 5G strategies evolve. Thanks very much, Jose. If there isn't any other responses to that question, then I'll hand back over to you, Guy. Oh, sorry, Caroline. I beg your pardon.
Oh, Caroline.
Sorry.
I'm just going to chime in there. In addition to what Jose Antonio mentioned, we also seeing quite a bit of the private network interest. It's not like it's just a lot of private network being deployed, but we're definitely seeing a lot of interest, like the early trial. Intel has participated in several. A lot of these can be classified as small, especially the ones indoor and on-prem, factories, retails, precision agriculture, greenhouses. There's a lot of things being wiring up for 5G, but they're starting with the EMBB. But a lot as we go forward to say things like URLC, maybe some of the massive IoT devices coming on board, I'm going to make a bold prediction that we will see a more small cell coming in. Even in a venue area, maybe there'll be some of the sharing that infrastructure sharing that Jose Antonio mentioned. I think eventually the jury is out, but if we go into a different type of deployment model, one example would be some of the hot topics going on, at least here in the US, is around V2X. How do we do the V2X that such that anybody who owns a car that has a capability of coveraging, like I was just recently in Alaska, in that kind of more of a less populated areas. I think the sharing, more small cell on the lamppost, that closer to the highway, I think that's gonna come in play. So recently we have participated in something called roadside unit, which is nothing more than a network in a box that's hanging on the roadside infrastructure. That we actually just announced a trial that's ahead of the Beijing Winter Olympics in conjunction with a Chinese operator to test this out. So some of these I think will be very interesting to watch. At least I'll propose that Ray and Guy, next time when we get together next year in Mobile Congress, we'll have some of the evidence, the things that we're saying here, whether it's true or completely false. But I'm on the confident side that this is going to happen. We're going to see a lot more small cell to serve not just the data session that we browse in the network, but also serve a lot of enterprise use cases.
Okay, yeah, excellent. We'll be able to put network in a box next to wine in a box on the Telecom TV booth, hopefully.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Okay. And make sure we drink out of the right one, of course. Okay, Guy, back over to you.
Yeah, I was also getting very excited then because I thought Caroline was saying when you and I next meet up at the Winter Olympics. I thought, yes, please, thanks very much. But never mind, Barcelona it will be then. Anyway, we have another special feature this week. We are really spoiling you. This is your after show. Yes, and we're asking viewers to share their memories of past MWC or 3GSM events. You've heard from our guests today, and hopefully you've had a chance to watch the first episodes of our Top 10 Mobile Moments series. And if not, I thoroughly recommend that you do. They're a lot of fun. Now we want to hear from you, so please send us your photos and we'll show them on air. Now we've got a selection today that go back. Ooh, look at that! These are 3GSM World Congress shots from the heady days of Cannes on the Riviera there. You know, some things don't change. Oh my word! Oh my word! Thank goodness that's not a tapas. That's got to be frog's legs, surely. Some things don't need commentary, do they? Isn't that our new employee? Or one of them is. And most of the stands and booths are on boats. Oh, now that brings back horrific memories. The show daily. That was a lot of work. And who doesn't like the balloon man? Oh dear.
That would be me.
Yeah. No, thank you. Okay, well, thanks for sending those snaps in, and please keep sending them in. If you want anonymity, we will guarantee it. Back to our after show then, and Ray, have you got our next viewer question?
Yes, thanks, Guy, we do. And here is the next question, and it is there much difference between private network RAN systems and the ones that the public mobile network operators use? Or is it all the same technology? So any difference between private network RAN systems and the public RAN systems? Arnaud, maybe we can come to you first on this one.
Thanks, Ray. Yes, it's a good question. In fact, you have the same building blocks when you want to do a private network around doing some indoor coverage, for example, moving to some firewall with some core network element. Of course, sometimes you could be on private network just data only, a data-driven network, and on the public network mainly there are voice data approach. So that's why as Orange we are promoting quite a hybrid approach for our customer, moving to a public plus private, and because we have we could propose really this hybrid approach like virtual private networks on public network, private extension, where we could get the traffic out locally on a side for private use cases. And there is because it's the same technologies and the same way to build as an operator and integrator, we could provide a number of benefits. We leverage on the public network investment, on the coverage, mixing mobile broadband, fixed price access, and B2B usage. We can really share the cost of the investment between customer doing a multi-site and multi-customer approach. And of course, we can assure a right mobility for the objects with a continuity of services between site and between the private part and the public network. So yes, same building blocks, of course, with a way to do it to simplify on the private network. And we will see more and more package solution for private network arriving from different operators or integrators.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks, Arnaud. And Jose Antonio, let's come to you next.
Yes, I agree with Arnaud. In the end, we have similar building blocks, but it's true that to design a private network, specifically, you have different considerations. You have considerations in terms of privacy, and therefore, all the system behind all the radio network is something that you look after carefully. Also considering different scenarios, some of the private networks are used to automize factories, and they might need faster responses. So despite you might have specific radios, there are specific dedicated optimal for the use of private networks. The reality is that the technology, it is the same. Vendors are normally the same. It's true that in private networks we see the opportunity to start including instances from other alternative vendors, and not only in Open RAN, but for instance in virtual EPCs. When you want to do an instance of a virtual EPC, you may decide to use one of the alternative vendors, and also depends as well on the segment. We see an exponential interest in utilities, and they have some requirements more related to IoT, and therefore the radio might be focusing on that part. There are other on manufacturing, and we mentioned as well on what is happening with latency and all of that. But with logistic and transport, tracking is one of the things that they're looking after, and with radio system together with GPS. So in the end, despite there are similar building blocks, there are industry-specific partners that requires a specific radio access features.
Okay, excellent. So lots of room for differentiation here by the sound of it. Caroline, are you seeing the emergence of some of these specific vertical options for radio access network?
Yeah, and Spectrum is definitely the first one. US using a lot of CBRS, and Germany has their own private Spectrum. I think UK Ofcom has some too, Sweden and so on. So the radio seems to be, the frequency could be different. The second thing that we notice is the software requirements are very different. The building blocks are the same because they do tend to align with what's 3GPP and ORAN spec. But because of different verticals have different use cases, like the factories, they will have a very stringent requirements on security. And also many times the private networks need to accommodate what's already on the ground. Wi-Fi is typically one, SD-WAN. So you see things like N3IWF that you need to accommodate non-3GPP traffic in a 3GPP infrastructure. We see that quite a bit coming up. We have announced, for example, working with XOR to establish some of the private industrial network. So it works with the operators, but the manageability side, the fact that the IT tend to have to approve some of the rollout. So it does put a different spin on what the 5G network for private network is probably going to be slightly different than the public, because the decision-making process are different, the purchasing process is also different. We're seeing if it's AR, VR, or what they call XRs involved, that the fact that deterministic nature of it is much more stringent, because it's not just accommodating somebody's browsing network. Many times it's relating to a robotic arm inside the factories. We've done things in partnership with Jose Antonio's company in Smart City. Again, that puts in a different requirements, and many times the players, the SI is different because the verticals are different. We recently just did one in the Snohomish County in Washington State here in the United States. Partners are very different. Who shows up, what the requirements are. You're working with the local agriculture, working with a farm, a greenhouse, a vineyard. So it presents its own challenges, but at the same time, to us, it's a TAM expansion, right? It's market expansion for all of us in this world. So I think net is good. Building blocks the same, but we need to take care of a lot of manageability and software players, and also being able to accommodate different system integrators into this new ecosystem.
Okay, so definitely not a case of one size fits all here then for the radio access network. Excellent. Thank you very much for all of the insights there. Guy, back over to you, because boy, look at the time. Wow.
Exactly. Time is flying. We've just about got time to check our audience poll and hopefully squeeze in another question. Our audience poll this week is a little bit different to the usual poll. We're going to be deciding who wins our daily Great Tapas Taste-Off. Now, if you've watched our news programme The Slice, and we hope you have, earlier today, you'll have seen Ray and me make our pitches for our favourite tapas, complete with homemade videos from our respective kitchens. And we asked you to decide on a winner. And today's choice was between Ray's calamari and my boccherones. And the winner is... Reveal the poll. Oh, it's... Ooh, recount maybe in order here. Ooh, Ray, I think your calamari has just edged my boccherones out. That's a shock result of the night. Probably not the first shock result of the night, but it's a shock result of the night. Goodness me, I'm speechless.
I think we'll have to take that as a final result there, Guy.
Okay, I'll give you that. Look, this is all a bit of fun, and we're going to keep the polls open a bit longer. In fact, we'll keep them open all week. Don't forget to tune into The Slice tomorrow around midday UK time to see our next challenge. Okay, I think we just about have time to squeeze in that final viewer question. So, Ray, what have you got for us?
Yes, thanks, Guy. So this question is, who is going to test all of the new radio access options before they get to the network operators if operators use RAN technology elements from multiple suppliers? So this has come back a little bit of the topic we had earlier. So basically, who's going to test to make sure it all works together and that it's all secure as well? So Tom, maybe come to you first on this one.
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things, again, I'm going to have a bit of a security slant on this type of subject, but I think one of the things that's important to be considerate of is each of these different vendors that form part of this overall solution will, yes, conform to standards and specifications on how their technologies will work, but each company, each vendor will implement their own business practices, security design processes, and those may be in conflict with each other, and they may not in turn meet the security requirements of the end customer, of the end operator. So I think it's important that the end MNO customer, the telco themselves, set a baseline set of security requirements that the vendors need to adhere to. And I think probably just to broaden that, the responsibility of who's going to test will likely fall to the common systems integrator. I think an aspect will be pushed towards the vendors themselves to test to a certain degree on the case of interoperability. again, based on that baseline that's dictated by the customer. But the systems integrator is critical in that area.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Tom. Great points there. Okay, if we don't have any other comments on that question, then Guy, I'm going to hand back over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ray, because as you said earlier, we are out of time. We've run over time. We were simply having too much fun today. Thank you so much to all our guests who joined us for this live programme, and thanks to our audience for watching and sending in questions. Now, we'll be back tomorrow with another live after-show programme, but before then, we have plenty more in store for you on day 3 of Spotlight on 5G.
Yes, tomorrow's Strategy Outlook takes an in-depth look at the 5G edge with interviews and roundtable discussions. We have 2 further episodes of our top 10 moments in mobile, where we take a look back at the best video content from 20 years of covering 3GSM and MWC. And tune in sometime around lunchtime, UK time, for The Slice, our daily news and analysis programme.
And Ray and I will be back at 5 p.m. UK time for the live after show. You know, I think it's going to be another long day. For now, though, from Ray and I, thanks for watching and goodbye.
The after show was recorded in front of a live online audience.